thrown up, all of them fit together. You don't just look at one piece and say, oh, that doesn't have anything, throw it out. Or this doesn't fit what we have and throw it out. That's not how you work a puzzle. That's not how you see the big picture. Everything has some sort of value to it when you put it all together. And that's what you will see today. So, first piece, quality in. We'll start there. On June the 14th of 2014, Shane and Mitch came up to Lexington to help Shane's dad set up for a gun show. And Jessica came up to visit from Somerset for the evening. They went to dinner at Hooters, they went to the liquor store, and they came back to the hotel. If you recall the witnesses and the evidence that you heard, Jessica wasn't drinking, because remember she was supposed to go to work in a couple of hours. Mitch wasn't drinking. They testified, as did Shane. He was the only one drinking. And specifically said, I wasn't getting party drunk, or forgot the words he used, but drinking a little, but wasn't drunk. You've heard his 911 call. He's just as cool and sober as he wants to be. So, he's not drunk. He's had a little bit to drink. But that isn't affecting what he's hearing and what he's seeing. And the 911 call comes in at 3:19, and Shane and Jessica call 911 to report that they've been robbed. And Officer Harris arrives, and a perimeter is established. So they're making a big deal about all these things that they didn't tell Officer Harris. But what did Officer Harris tell you? He is the first responder. What he's responsible for doing is, tell me what you know about them, who they are, and where they went. That's what I need to know. So, they talked about descriptions. And coming from his report, coming from what they've testified to, there was a variety of information that came forward about the descriptions that were given. 2 male blacks. At one point they gave a description of 5'8", 180 pounds, approximately 25 years old. The other male black, approximately 30 years old. One had dreadlocks. One had a black hooded sweatshirt. One had a blue hooded sweatshirt. We talked about the type and the shade of pants. We talked about a black baseball cap with red lettering. One had a black gun, and I think Mitch said that the paint was wore off, so it looked like it was a silver gun. The second one had a black semi-automatic handgun. That was the information that Officer Harris was asking. So then there were some things in the weeds about, what did you say, uncle and nephew? What did you say, some of this other stuff about, what did you tell them about, I don't remember off the top of my head some of those other things that he said. But they were making a big deal about some of this outlined stuff that Officer Harris didn't ask about. And what they kept saying was, I answered what he asked me. And Officer Harris is wanting to know that immediate information. Tell me what they look like, and tell me where they went. And that's what he's looking for. So don't get caught up in the weeds because Officer Harris, sitting right there getting a perimeter, trying to find a front quickly, doesn't go through, well, what skin complexion is he? And what else did he say? And did he say to you that, shut up or I'll kill you? And did you talk about what you got stolen in terms of how much money? Don't get caught up in the weeds about that. That's why there is an investigator that is assigned who can conduct more investigation and more information. He just needs that immediate information right then and there. So then, Shane talked about how he came in, they were standing outside, he and Jessica, and to their right, they could see 2 individuals coming. Does he know exactly how long? Don't know. He thought it was a couple minutes. It may not have been that long. Not rushing up to him, because he said, I saw him coming, and initially thought maybe we should go back inside, but didn't. So they're not necessarily doing anything other than just walking down like this and being a little... So nothing in necessarily how they're approaching that caused any issues. But they kept getting closer and closer and closer. And then the one in the front got a hoodie on, got his head down. Talk about why he's doing that in a minute. And then the second one passed. And he said, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I've got to look people in the eye. And so he looks at him right in the eye. Talks about the hat, remembers the red lettering, flat bill, and I looked him right in the eye. And he said the first one passed, and then the second one by. I looked him in the eye, and I nodded. at me. And just as he kind of cleared me, he turned around and he put the gun to my chest. That's what Shane saw, and that's what Shane remembered, and that's how Shane knows who it is that robbed him. So then we talked about what happened, and Jessica said, I screamed. And the other one comes with a gun and says, shut up or I'll kill you. And she screams again. And then Mitch is inside, and he says, I heard her scream at first, and I thought they were playing around, until I heard the second scream and realized maybe not. And that's when he goes and picks up the gun. But at that point, these two, with guns pointed to Shane's head, force him inside, and then pull Jessica in. These two. They go inside. And once inside, they make Jessica lay down on the bed, and then they want Shane to lay on the bed. And Shane then lays on top of her. And he's watching best as he can, and trying to still look best as he can. Mitch is standing in there. And when Mitch tries to hide the gun behind him, one of them yells, gun, and then Canada approaches, takes his gun, goes through his pockets, flip the mattress, and then make Mitch lay down on the mattress. And then they start going through, or Canada starts going through the room, looking for stuff, taking wallets, taking money, taking the phone, got down to Springfield, taking stuff out of the room. And then after they've done that, Blossom says, come on, nephew, and then they leave. After they leave, Shane says they go down the right, back out through the tree line. Mitch then goes and starts trying to find the gun that didn't get taken, and then he's going out after him. Out down the right, through the tree line. Talk about that in just a second. Then you hear Shane call 911. And it was important for you to hear that. Yes, absolutely, that is a stressful situation. But you can hear the difference between how he is talking and how Jessica is talking. Because people handle stress different ways. They handle things different ways. So he's talking. And you're hearing the dispatcher talking about, well, tell me what happened, tell me what they saw, or what you saw, what they look like, and things like that. So he's talking, but then Jessica's talking. And they're in there. You can kind of hear a little bit in the background. And they're kind of talking about what happened. Now, did they go into absolute detail? Does the dispatcher say exactly what this and what happened, what said and everything? No. They're getting the immediate information to get that officer out there so they know exactly what needs to happen. So then the officers come, talk to them in the parking lot, got that immediate information, and then Shane tells you, we left. We weren't even the same, we left before some of them did, while the officers are trying to gather information and set up a perimeter. And the defense has made a big deal about the fact that the Forensic Services Unit wasn't called. And they didn't do this, and they didn't do that, and they didn't do that. But what's the point of having witnesses, and what's the point of having people who do this job a long time and regularly? You heard Detective Russell, who's been doing it for years and years and years. What is the point of having witnesses come if they're going to say, well, disregard what they say and just use your own judgment, or disregard what they say and just go with what I say? That's why what they say is not evidence, because they're not Forensic Services Unit people, they're not patrol officers, and they're not investigators. What you need to hear is what Detective Russell said to you on the stand. And what he said was, that is not a situation where we would be called out. Officers are trained about the situations in which we call them out. And that isn't one of them. They can say, well, should have. Okay, what you say, the officer says, there's no evidentiary value in that. I'm going to come take a picture of a flip mattress. That's not helping me find the suspects. In a hotel room that's not cleaned every day, the drawers and those surfaces. So as people are opening the drawers, and the fingertips are crossed. You heard him say that. We need the ridge detail from the fingerprints to be able to do that. And common surfaces like that, drawers, door handles, things like that, do not give us what we need to be able to do a I thought the biggest joke of all was, you didn't get a cutting of the mattress for DNA. Are you kidding me? You want to get a swab of DNA off that hotel mattress at Quality Inn? And do what with that? Do what with that? That's why you listen to what they say on the stand, not what they want you to go down a weird road and listen to. That's not what they do. The lab won't take it. There was no reason for them to be called out. Then they made a big deal about the cell phone, and they didn't get fingerprints off the cell phone, and they didn't track GPS off the cell phone. Well, if you listen to Shane and what he said, he was talking about the fact that how he told the officers you could track, or he said it on dispatch, about they took my phone, you may be able to track it. But then when he was asked, he said, well, I saw that on TV. And we talked about from day one, this is not TV. Because even when he was tracking his own phone, he didn't do GPS. He sent a text. This is a stolen phone. If you find it, please call this phone number. He did it by way of a text, not GPS. So then they say, well, why didn't you do fingerprints on the phone or get DNA off the phone? Well, the phone was stolen. It was found somewhere by somebody who couldn't stay around to get it to Shane. So he leaves it with the store clerk, who then gives it to Shane, who then takes it home. So what prints are you getting off that phone? And what DNA are you collecting off that phone? You're not. You're not. Just transferring it from the suspects to the person who found it or whatever is going to wipe away anything you have on there. So that's why I say what they say is not evidence. So then Shane and Mitch and Jessica, they've come in here today. And they've talked and they've testified about what they saw and what they remember. And the defense talked a little bit about memory conformity, and I'll talk about that a little bit more too, and they've talked about it, and therefore the memories, kind of fill in each other. Except, when you listen to them, they've all kind of talked about three different things and three different vantage points. So it's not like they've kind of gotten together and all the stories are exactly the same. Then you might be a little suspect, but they didn't. Some said, I don't remember, that's been a while. Some said things a little differently than the others because they were all coming at it from different vantage points. And memory conformity and getting together to do anything like that. So Shane comes in and he testifies about what he remembered and things he didn't remember. He said he didn't remember, and things he didn't know, he said he didn't know. But what he did know was the man he looked in the eye, who he nodded at, who pointed that gun at him. And if you remember, as he was sitting here, and I showed him the lineup, and we were talking about it, and then he looked up. And he looked at that man sitting back there. And he said, makes me sick to my stomach. It's just a feeling, even 4 years later. Makes me sick to my stomach. He's not pointing him out because it's the same person he picked out from then. He's pointing him out because he remembered him. Because that's the one that Robert falling in. Jessica maintained, I didn't see them. I had my head down. I didn't see them. And then Mitch comes in. And Mitch talked about it was a bad dream. And Mitch talked about the fact that when he was shown that lineup with them in there. And let me point something out about those lineups. When the defense tried to imply that one was shown with a six-pack, one was shown with a sequential, you have heard no evidence that either one of them was in trouble. So don't get sidetracked in that. So anyway, he said there was two people. And he said it was one of them with the other's nose, because he was talking about the big nose. You remember Jessica said, I just remember having a big nose. And they did talk about that. Now, the defense gets all their information. Contact information is clear because they talked about the investigator going to talk to them. They can go talk to them and ask them. Interview them. What happened? What you see? What they say? What happened? They can get all that information.
Madam
in. And he talked about who he identified in that lineup. And at the time, he was talking about the differences in them. But he said, if I could see them in person, I could maybe make a distinction from there, because he was talking about the nose and things like that, and I maybe could make a distinction from there, seeing them in person. And it's key because there's this memory guy came up and I asked him, is it easier to kind of identify people in person than it is on a picture? Yes. And that was also then when he said, except for when you see them in court and whatever. But the point being, it's easier to see somebody in person than it is to see them on a photo. So the detectives went through, read all the lineup instructions, and I'm going to point this out too because the defense has made a big deal about the fact that they didn't record and they didn't do things right, except their memory guy talks about trying to make it unbiased to read certain instructions. I'm about to show you a series of photos of individuals. It's just as important to clear innocent persons from suspicion as to identify guilty parties. I do not know whether the person being investigated is included in this series. Individuals present in the series may or may not appear exactly as they did on the date of the incident because features such as head hair and facial hair are subject to change. You should not feel you have to make an identification. If you do identify somebody, I will ask you to describe in your own words how certain you are. The photos will be shown to you one at a time, and they are not in particular order. Take as much time as you need to examine each photo. If you make an identification, I will continue to show you the remaining photos in the series. Regardless of whether you make an identification, we will continue to investigate the incident. Since this is an ongoing investigation, you should not discuss identification procedures or results. Each of them talked about being read, those instructions. Each of them talked about not talking about it afterwards. Each of them talked about the fact that they asked Detective Upchurch, did I pick out somebody or whatever, and he refused to tell them. So, they're trying to get you sidetracked on the whole he didn't record. Well, I'm not sure what they're wanting from that. If they think that something was said incorrectly, Detective Schoonover was there. If there was something incorrectly done or said, they absolutely could question that. If it's because there might be a tell, I'm not sure you're going to pick up on an audio recording because they're subconscious. So don't get sidetracked in the weeds. The defense then brought in Mitch's Facebook post. And they make a big deal. They asked Detective Upchurch, well, if somebody said that, would show them a lineup. Now, completely out of context, didn't tell them what it was about, didn't say where it was coming from, and his initial answer was no, because I would think if they just said that they wouldn't be able to pick them out. So then I went back and said, but you have no idea what you're talking about, do you? You don't know it, not in context or anything. So then when we went back, it was, well, I need to let me see the circumstances before I make that determination. Because what Mitch said was, I was angry. I don't know how many times he said on the stand, I was angry, I was mad. Understandable, he just got robbed. And then he posted this Facebook page, this Facebook thing that was up there. He regrets it. But I hope that our actions are not forever altered or changed or judged because we say things out of anger sometimes that we may mean or may not mean or whatever. Because if he truly could not pick out African Americans in the lineup, then he wouldn't have picked this person and then another person. He wouldn't have been able to at least narrow it down. It would have been, they all look the same to me, I wouldn't have been able to pick out anybody. But he didn't. After this robbery, as I said, Detective Upchurch was assigned to investigate. Initially got the serial number for Shane's gun. It says 696718. Input it into the database. in the case it was ever recovered. He and other detectives went back to Quality Inn to see if they had any videos. Quality Inn had no external videos, no external cameras. They went to the Residence Inn, no cameras. They went to the Shell station, didn't show anything. Nobody matched in that description. So then they're making a big deal about Department of Correction video. So when you look at that, I was rather curious. So the Quality Inn is, you see, top part over there. And that first driveway is the back parking lot, which I thought was very strange. But it's the back parking lot right there. So if you're going to go and commit, a robbery, as in I'm going to sneak over to Quality Inn and then come on back after I just committed this robbery, it would seem to me that if you're going to park in the tree line, that you would park kind of right here. Go through the tree line and park right there. It makes no sense that I'm going to go way back in there. There's nothing back there. So if you're going to go and hop in the car and take off, you're going to park right close to the getaway kind of situation. So there, on this back edge, there is one camera. Somewhere around there. One camera. That's it. So when the officer says, I was told that there was not a camera, it would make sense, because there's only one and it's way up here. So easy to miss, or at least think you're not going to catch it from that getting way up here in that parking lot. Then I was looking at the surveillance camera sign that's there, and I know that the guy came in and was trying to remember where it was and where it was pointing to or whatever. But I was also kind of looking at the background here, this background area and the poles or whatever. Okay. I'm not sure where that is in relation to this. Nothing in that picture looked like anything here. I'm sorry, my pen is falling all over the place. But when I'm looking at this parking lot or whatever, I'm not sure where that sign is in relation to that. So you all can take a look at that and you can make that determination to see whether or not it was reasonable for an officer to think that it was under surveillance. Now, after Shane and Mitch have identified these individuals, Shane picked out Dwan Malazzo, and Mitch picked out Presidio, Canada, and an individual named Tone Broaddus. And he was making a distinction between the two. One, we know it's not Tone Broaddus because Tone Broaddus was in jail from April to July, so it's not him. And then the defense, I guess, keeps trying to detract or explain or whatever how these two individuals who don't know Canada and Malazzo, don't know their uncle and nephew, haven't seen them on TV, and I'll explain that in a minute, that they just happen to pick the two people who are connected. So they talked for a while about the fact that they saw them on TV, they asked the questions of them, did y'all show pictures of them or whatever. They weren't indicted until September. There was nothing to put them on TV for. They weren't charged in this case until September. There's nothing on TV. So when I say don't get caught in the weeds, that's what I mean by that. They weren't on TV. They didn't see them on TV, on anything. On the Facebook post, it's a little media clip that says Robbery at Quality Inn. There's no pictures in there. There's no photos of these two people in here because they weren't put into the lineup and shown to them until the 29th. They did not see them on TV. So the only way that they were able to be able to pick them out is because they remembered them from the day of the robbery. Ms. Green then talked about the lineup, and she put it up there, and she said, well, he's the one that looks angry, and he's the one that looks the darkest of them all, and everything like that. But you heard Detective Upchurch say, when I try to come up with a lineup, I want them all to be similar so that one of them doesn't stick out. And I think he said I do it for the benefit of your client. So that there's not a false kind of identification. So that somebody's not picking them out because they are the one in the different color shirt or because they are the one that's whatever. Then they had a whole conversation about tattoos. Well, nobody mentioned a tattoo. No. But remember I said we talked earlier about the fact he's got the hoodie on and the fact that Megan will talk about later, she's talking about it came down, his dreads are down. Well, he's been sitting here like this, all just pulled back and carrying on. That is not what he looked like on that day. So when you're looking at that photo and his dreads are down like that, that tattoo being there on his left upper cheek, kind of out of sight a little bit, easy to miss in the dark, particularly if you got the hoodie on, or particularly when you got your braids, your dreads kind of covering it. So yeah, it's really easy to see how they didn't see that. And so, Detective Upchurch said, when I'm putting together a photo lineup, yes, if I can find 5 people with a very similar tattoo, yes, I'll put them in. Because again, I don't want to have somebody stick out or point out just because you look different than the other ones. If that can't happen, then I've got to take that out. And I've got to Photoshop that out. Because if it was too suggestive or too much of an issue, then the courts get involved and it gets excluded. So he said, I'm doing it for your client. So then, the defense, and I think Ms. Green mostly, was talking about how we remember memory conformity. I think the doctor was talking about post-event, comparing notes, getting bad info afterwards, phenomena, whatever, weapons focus, how long you've had to look at them, head coverings, things like that. And I went through each and every one of them. Because remember, my first question is, you have never talked to any witness in this case. You've not talked to them. You don't know them. You don't know how any of that affected them. Any of those factors. So we went through exposure time. When you look at them before the weapons come in. Yep, that can be a difference. No particular amount of time, but yes, that can make a difference. Okay? What about when they've got a head covering? While that can decrease it, but if you've got exposure time with the head covering, yes, that can increase the accuracy of the identification. We talked about the fact that there was a hoodie, but then it came out. That's how they knew they had dread. Yep, that can increase the accuracy of that. Then I said, well, what if there's like a combination of things? So I've seen them for a period of time, and I deal with stress okay, and I've got a pretty good memory compared to others. What about there's some factors in combination that could kind of increase the accuracy? Well, we don't study that. We have to do them one at a time, and we don't study that, so I don't know what the effect is of that. So then I asked him about the quote from the National Academy of Sciences. That's why National Academy of Sciences said many of the applied studies on key factors that directly affect eyewitness performance in the laboratory are not readily applicable to actual practice and policy. Because the stress is manufactured. They know they're in a study. It's not real world scenarios. People react to things differently, handle things differently, remember things differently. So you have to listen to what they said on the stand, know what you know about them, and then see how it compares to the other facts and circumstances in the case. The other thing that Detective Upchurch did was got cell phone records. So in an investigation, when they're gathering and collecting all kinds of information, that's fishing. But if they didn't gather all kinds of information, they tell them they didn't do the job. You got sort of pick one. Get too much information, get not enough information. So then they'll call at 859-684-5161. Phone records for Quincinio, Canada. The 911 call came in at 3:19. And at 3:08, the call from his phone that hits the tower at New Circle and New Turnpike, across the street from the Quality Inn, about 3/4 of a mile from the Quality Inn Hotel. So we put all those calls just before there to show that he's kind of bouncing around. Now, they say he's at Ray Hudson's house. Ray didn't come in and say that. But 10 minutes before the robbery, they're right across the street. So then, the other thing that's taken out of that was this stolen gun. 2012, I believe, was when Mr. Pilcher said it was manufactured. It's in the hands of Shane, who's around a lot of guns, helping his dad. He's at a gun trade show. So that gun is 2 years old. And it's rare, relatively new, I should say, because Mr. Pilcher, in his 16, 17 years experience, I think he said, had never seen it before. And that gun, newly on the market gun, stolen by two individuals, one with dreadlocks, one in a hat with lettering on it. One is about, I said 25, 26, one is about 30. One that said, "Come on, nephew." That gun, in the hands of individuals that fit that description, 6 days later, is in the hands of two individuals who fit that description at the at the Austin City Saloon. We'll go through that as well. So Megan gave a description of the 911 operator, to the 911 operator. Two black men, both had guns, one had dreadlocks and a white shirt. And that's what she said at that particular time. And she talks to Detective Wolf 4 different times. And she says the man that approached her was maybe 5'9" or 5'10", appeared to be a gun with a silver barrel, it was a semi-automatic. The other person was a black male with shorter hair, dark colored shirt. And she said the man with white shirt and medium to dark complexion. The other one was darker, or was wearing a mask. One with short hair was in his late 20s, early 30s. The one in the white shirt was in the late 20s. One with the shorter hair, he appeared to be older. And in all of those interviews, she started with, "I only saw the barrel of the gun." And then it was, the other one had a gun but didn't see it. And then it kind of went to be honest, "I'm not sure which one shot me, and not sure if both had a gun." So then when she comes in today and says it's a revolver, I'm not sure that that's correct based on the evidence that's in the case. Because we know that the shell casing came from a Springfield XDS 45 firearm. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. And it's very interesting, I just noted when Ms. Green was talking. When the 3 Quality Inn people came in here and said something back then, and then said something during the testimony that was a little different, she just went down. And this is exactly what Dr. Nishep said. And this is the memory confirming. This is this. And they're trying to remember 4 years later. And went on and criticized everything that he said. Because they said things a little bit differently. However, when Megan gave her 4 different interviews and never said it was a revolver, and then in testimony last week she said it was a revolver, well, there was no issue about that memory change. And wanted you to believe that was a revolver. So I'm going to need you to pick one. So she went through, she talked about the descriptions. And the defense has also made a big deal about the fact that nobody identified him as having gold teeth. I also haven't heard anybody say he's got gold teeth. And then Detective Wolf, who has seen him twice, once talking, didn't remember any gold teeth. He noted the gold wedding ring, but didn't note the gold teeth. So she's making a big deal about that, but I'm not really sure I've heard any evidence to that. The next pieces. In the drive-thru, that's DeJuan Moazza. And I really wondered how they were going to kind of address that and deal with that, because his own sister came in and said, "Yep, that's him." She pointed him out. She said, "That's him." I asked about the hat. She said, "Yes, he always wears hats." because he's always got to be fresh. He matches from head to toe, he's always got to be fresh. So that picture that they went and they were talking about, and that's a different hat. I know it's a different hat. When we showed that picture of him in that blue hat, that wasn't to say that that was the same hat. The point being is he wears hats. And Ms. Lesage talked about that. He wears hats. His sister said that. Match, head to toe, wears hats. That was the point of that photo. But that's him in that drive-thru buying cigars, wearing the hat. And what you will also notice is that shirt is black. And as he sits back, you'll see there's a white emblem there, or white design or something right there in the front. And that's going to become key in a minute. He's got on the wedding band, buy cigars. Then, there's another photo of them when they first pull in. And they're also making a big deal about, we don't know what time it is, the Danny Scott video versus Mariana's Tienda video. I think weren't listening to Lieutenant Richardson, at least not understanding what he said, because they did talk about the fact that here's what time the Danny Scott video is. They compared that time to the Mariana's Tienda video, and the things that were going around in the Mariana's Tienda video, like when the ambulance came, when the officers came, to time that. And based on what they did in piecing that together, they determined that the Mariana Tienda's video was about 4 minutes fast. Faster than the Danny Scott video. But in the front of that, move that thing just a little bit. So if you look at that, and when the light comes down on that, in that passenger side right there, and you will get to take all of these back with you. In that passenger side right there, what's reflecting down there, right about in there, appears that there's a passenger sitting there with a light colored shirt on, white colored shirt on. And I did that particular screenshot at that time because right after that screenshot, you will see there's a light flicker right there. And you can see very well there's a white shirt right there. We'll go back and talk about that in a minute too. And in the back, there he is, Rayetta's license plate. And again, it's a little easier to see when you actually have the photo, but that's her license plate, that's her car, and that's what she came in and testified belonged to her. When you also look at it, you'll put that back up, the one with him with the hat. When you look at the photo very closely when you have it, you can see the hat, you'll see the white lettering, and then you'll see the stickers there at the top, which matches the hat that was found in the dumpster. After the cigars are purchased, they drive away and they go to the right. Now I'm doing this by way of picture so we don't have to do a lot of toggling, and I'll play the video a little bit later. But they drive away and they go to the right. They don't turn around, they don't make a U-turn, they go to the right, and they pass Megan and Jonathan, and they go out of sight and around the corner. And about 9 minutes later, you see two people walking up to Megan and Jonathan. Again, you will see the video, and you will have these photos up close. So it's a little difficult to see, but what I want you to focus on, when you see them walking in the video and looking at that, what you will see is one individual here that's got on the white shirt and the black pants. Now I know Mr. Tracy said he doesn't have white shoes on, but I'm not sure you can tell he's got what kind of shoes he's got on. But you see the white shirt and the black pants, and then what you see is the black shirt, dark pants, and even in this photo you can see there's something white right there in the front of the shirt. And then the robbery occurs, so they walk, they approach Megan, they approach Jonathan. We'll play that a little bit later. They approach, one goes in front, one goes around the truck, and they approach them. And she says that she is standing there, the one with the dreads, has dreads down in his hair, in his face, covering the tattoo, points the gun at her. She's trying to take her purse off. He's trying to snatch the purse. About that point, she sees an altercation happening with Jonathan and the other person. So when you see that video, you'll see what appears the person in the white shirt being thrown up against the truck. And something fall, which we're saying is going to be Jonathan. And then you'll see a shot. Then you'll see another shot, and what appears to be Megan fall, because then where she falls, you can see the light of her cell phone. Then you see Dewan Malazam walk away, very casually, and you'll see Canada, she says, Megan says, he then goes through Jonathan's pockets, and then you can see him take off running to catch up with Malazam, and they walk away. Now, key point to that being, they walk away. They're gone, they're out of sight. Canine Officer Karsner hears the dispatch call go out, says he's close, he just responds, and he says he's one of the first officers to arrive. Early. And because he arrived so early, his thought is maybe I can try to get a track going. So he deploys his dog, and they follow the scent. And what he talked about was coming down around here, coming around the back, and going up this way towards Codale. And he talked about the daycare that's back there, the playground equipment that's back there, or whatever. Past the normal running through cuts. And that was very important because Mr. Tracy was talking about, oh, it's a high crime neighborhood, people are all back there, they run through the cuts, and cuts go through the apartments and everything like that. And then foot traffic, they run out the cut. Except, that's not where the dog went. The dog, who got there earlier, went past, ran back there. Officer Purdy went back there, Officer Purdy hadn't started a search yet. That's who the K9 was tracking. Again, a little interesting tidbit. Quality in, when Officer Karsner said, I got there, but got there later, so I don't know who I was tracking. You know, Mitch is back there, officers back there, or whatever. But they want you to believe that, because it helps them being way back in this parking lot, which makes no sense. But then when Officer Karsner arrived early on at Austin City and tracks this scent going up the parking lot, which is not a normal route that you would run, but you would drive in a car, don't believe that one. So again, pick and choose whatever helps the defense, that's what they want me to believe. So then they leave there, drive out there, go this way, and on out, somewhere in this area, because they don't appear to be back on camera, and then they end up on Edgewood Court, which is down here, with Antoine Woods. They don't like him. Oh, they so don't like him. The defense does not like him at all. But first of all, I will say, it's his friend. They don't like him. They don't like him. They just did not like him because he didn't help him. But that's his friend. He's known him since he was a juvenile. And then he says, I just find it hard to believe that people will come talk. Well, your friends come tell you stuff. They come talk to you about stuff. And I also might point out, they had this whole conversation about being a snitch. You would think, in that culture, being, I'm not going to talk, or I'm going to tell and it's okay because you're not supposed to snitch. Depends on who you're around and what you do and who your friends are. I've told my co-workers I'm telling everything. I'll snitch. Apparently that's not the thing. So that's why they think it's okay to talk. It's common sense to think. Trials have people that come talk. They're friends, people trying to get out of trouble. That's how it about comes out. They get in trouble, they want a deal. Now, Clearly, Mr. Woods is not testifying here because he thinks he got a deal. Mr. Tracy went through all that, so you got that, and you got a reduction in charges, you got this. That Mr. Woods doesn't think so. I paid for an attorney. He was working out and negotiating on my behalf. Yes, I got out on bond. Yes, I picked up new charges, things like that. And in his mind, he didn't get squat. So he didn't have a reason to come in here and say what he told the police. But he did. And what he said was, he's known Q-Man since he was a juvenile. He comes over to Hedgewood to see him. Presidio tells him that he just shot a guy around the corner at Austin City. He said Q-Man's in the car, in the passenger seat, with a guy that he has seen with Q-Man all the time and he don't like him. He misremembered the whole gold car thing because he never told Detective Wolf that. But when you think about what he said and how it comports with the other information, here's what you have. The conversation with the police was with him on January the 14th of 2015. It had not been released at all that Dewan Malazam and Presidio Canada were suspects, persons of interest, whatever. They hadn't been arrested. They had not been released at all. They hadn't been charged with a homicide. So the only description that was put out there regarding that was the one that was on the flyer that he talked about, and the one that Megan had given. So of all the names that Antoine Woods could have come up with, of all the names, he came up with him and didn't realize the connection. He says Q-Man is the passenger in the car with the man that he always sees with Q-Man. That information had also not been released. It never been released anywhere that Q-Man was in the car, passenger of the car. It hadn't been released to anybody. And then the phone calls that was from Canada's phone are hitting off the tower at Richmond Road and New Circle. And we showed those maps to you as well of all the calls and where they're hitting. That hadn't been released to anybody. That call is right across the street, short distance from Woodhill. So, they can talk about his credibility all they want to, but how does his information comport with the other evidence that they have? So now we have cell phone evidence. And the defense has tried their best, because it doesn't help them. So they've tried their best to stretch the time or stretch the distance of these towers. Then you had Mr. Walker come in here with his 40 years of experience. Mr. Tracy said, well, this is too much, fits in a neat little bow. Well, no, because in 40 years, he knows what he's talking about. And he won't go along with what they're trying to do, which is to make this tens of miles or however long it is. So when they're talking about, it took 51 seconds to get here to here to here. Mr. Walker said, if there's a cell tower here, and there's a cell tower over here, to be in the footprint of the tower, I don't have to be standing under the tower to hit off that tower. I just have to be in the footprint. So I could be here, there's a tower there, there's a tower there. I can hit this tower, and I can hit this tower on the next handoff. And they put them like that to go from call to call to call to call to call, so there's handoffs. There's no leapfrogging. They said leapfrogging. He said there is none. He's the one with 40 years experience. They're the one trying to get flying out. So, I'm just saying. There's no leapfrogging. You go from tower to tower to tower. You just pass off, hand off, hand off, hand off. So they're saying, how are you going to get from here to here in 51 seconds? Depends on where you are in your footprint. They made a big deal about the fact, well, that's proprietary information, and they're not telling us, and we need to know that. What business do you know that does not have some sort of proprietary information that does not get released to competitors? Heck, we got work product notes we don't pass off to each other. There are some things that you don't pass off. You don't need to know what it is. However, what you generally need to know is it is a short distance. When you have an area with a lot of people, you need a lot of towers. So you don't drop calls and everything can be covered. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, less towers, miles away. Shorter area with a lot of people, a lot of towers. Smaller distance, he said, could be several meters, up to a couple miles, probably less than a mile. That's why, when he's identifying and being certain areas, that's why he's hitting off towers that are half a mile away, 3/4 of a mile away, across the street or whatever. That's why he's so close, because he's right there in that area. Mr. Walker, at his 40 years of experience, is the expert. So yes, he came in as custodian of records, but that's one of the many jobs he's held at AT&T. The engineer, the cell tower designer, you name it, he's done it. He started before they even had cell service. He's worked his way through. He's got trained. He's a trainer. So why would you not listen to what he said? Because they don't want you to. Because that means that their client's aware they don't want him to be. So then we've talked about Mr. Malazim's phone, 859-552-7517. And confirmed that there was a call because between the two of them, they're texting uncle and nephew between the two calls. The last text he received was that his plan expired for the month. He received no text between June 13th and June the 22nd, and no calls from June the 5th to June the 27th. And that'll become important in a minute. So on his phone, Canada's phone, on June the 20th at 10:24. Now, Mr. Tracy talks about, well, he's at 9:55. He's at Woodhill at the food landmark. He gets all the way out to Winchester Road by 10 o'clock. And that's a long time to go. Again, like this whole expanding, first of all, you ever gone from Woodhill to Winchester Road in New Circle? It's not that far at 10 o'clock at night, and you don't have a lot of traffic. Also, if you're in the footprint, you don't have to be standing in one place to hit the tower someplace else. Thirdly, looking at that camera was 9:55, but we don't know exactly what time it is. They made a big deal about what times are, and it's off by a few seconds, a few minutes, or whatever. So, not exactly sure it's 9:55, but it may probably be close. But at 10:24, the call is made to 859-402-5430, which is Shalonda's phone. Canada's phone calls Shalonda's phone at that particular time. Now, it's calling Shalonda's phone because, remember, Shalonda isn't working. At 10:43, nobody answers. At 10:43, the 402-5430, Shalonda's phone, calls Canada back. And the call time is for 35 seconds. At 11:30, it's found just bouncing off the tower at Village Drive, where Shalonda and Dewan Malazim live. So he's gone over, picked him up, headed back out. And at 1:42, the call hits off the Richmond Road Tower. So, for that, in the Dana Scott video, that's Dewan Malazim driving, and that's Quincinio Canada in the passenger side. While they're out, bouncing around, bouncing from tower to tower, Man of War, Colombo, they're out in Hamburg, all that other kind of thing. The phone gets a call from Aunt Sarah Smith at 2:10 in the morning, 859-270-4244. And there, you've got some hospital records that show that, and you'll see there's a admission sheet or whatever that Sarah Smith signs. But if that's not Quincinio Canada's phone, well, why is Sarah calling that phone? And that call is 3 minutes and 32 seconds. It's calling Quincinio's phone. So, then you track where he bounces from phone to phone to phone, makes his way from Hamburg to downtown, to Winchester Road, to Midland, then over to Waller Avenue. 247, near St. Joe Hospital. Waller and I think the railroad tracks. St. Joe Hospital is sitting on the corner. At 247, Quincinio's phone then calls Sarah's number. Seizure time is 9 seconds, the length of the call is 51 seconds. Shortly after that, he's hitting off the tower at Red Mile and Forbes Road. So what makes sense is, Quincinio Canada, Dewan Malazim. Sarah has to call Quincinio's phone because Dewan's phone isn't working. They drive over to the hospital, and since they're saying he left with her, then Quincinio would have had to have dropped them off at the hospital because for 51 seconds, that's the amount of the call, and then he ends up making it to another tower at Forbes Road. So, he is now in the hospital. Quincinio Canada had dropped them off, and then this proceeded on. That's what the evidence will show you. So then, we got Joy and Dion. So I thought it was rather interesting that in none of the opening statements they talked about them. And my theory is because they didn't want Detective Wolf to be able to go investigate, go confirm or deny their stories. But they came in and they talked to you about seeing seeing DeJuan Malazan on that night. So what I thought was a little weird was the fact that this woman, Joy's going to come in, and Dion, going to come in and say, I saw him on that night. Could have committed the murder. I saw him on that night. But they let him just sit here for 3 years and not tell the police that? Kind of one of these Matlock Bowens who's going to show up. What I also noted was they have an investigator who's come in and talked about some stuff that he did. Talked to Jessica and the secret recording, time, steps at the quality inn. But then I asked Joy, what was the phone number you were using back then? I don't remember. Okay. So nobody brought cell phone records in to confirm or corroborate what she was saying. I think Dion talked about she went by and stopped by Thornton's. They pulled her show up going to Thornton's. Nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. You just got these two folks that will show up and say that. So, they didn't even show Joy the Danny Scott video, one guy to the side there. They didn't even show that to her and say, is that you sitting in the passenger side? They didn't ask her. Anyway, that's a little strange to me. I also thought it was kind of going off the rails a little bit when she started talking about texting. And I just happened to see him out at Griffith Market, and we exchanged numbers, and we were texting for a couple weeks before, not every day, but we were texting back and forth, just checking in, this kind of thing, we were texting. And then she said, while I was in the car with him, he received a phone call that his wife was in the hospital. So clearly it's not his phone, because his phone wasn't working. So I guess maybe they're implying he's got Quincinio's phone, but I don't know when that happened or when that transfer happened. And then Joy said, well, it was in a gray car, so I don't know if the implication is that Shalonda's car, not Shalonda's car, Rietta's car. So that is like, I was so confused. They threw stuff up there that makes absolutely no sense. No sense whatsoever. So clearly Malazan's phone isn't working. So if she's to believe, whose phone does he have? If it's Quincinio, he's with Quincinio. He's got to be. Because Quincinio's phone is bouncing all over the place. If it's no, in fact, he gave it to him, well, who knows he gave it to him? Who knows who gave it to him? So here's the thing. No, the defense doesn't have it. We have the burden. We accept that. We have the burden of proof. Now let's put on the squad. But when they do, you have to analyze that the same way you would any other witness. They're presumed innocent. They ain't presumed truthful. The witnesses aren't presumed. So you have to analyze what they bring up here the same way you're going to analyze anything else and how it plays with the facts of the case. And it doesn't. It does not, by any stretch, fit any of the facts of this case. So then we've got another part, the hat. So they act like it was all confusing, whether exactly why. So on the 24th, and they're making a big deal about the fact that they, the detectives focused on them, and that's all that they did. Well, that's really not what Detective Wolf said. He gets information. Some of it he can determine maybe a little sketchy. Some of it's anonymous, some not. Some of it may be warranting further follow-up. They were looking at the Thornton's video. I might point out they were looking at them that night. If you heard him talk about it, he went to Thornton's and there were some detectives that were already looking at them, so it wasn't like a couple days later they were looking at them that night. So you had him going through and still looking at tips, investigating and different things like that. And then he received like other stuff, information about these two. And he went and investigated, looked at that kind of thing, was going to go talk to him. That's all he was doing, was going to go talk to him. Went to Cannon's house, he wasn't there. Went to Malazan's house, he wasn't there. But at Malazan's house was his cousin or something along those lines. Called him, can you get him? Hey, police are looking for you, can you come over and talk to us? Did not. That was on the 24th. On the 25th is when Shawanda then goes into her apartment complex, driving, I think, Dawn's car, Miss LaSage said, which is what drew their attention because that's not the car she normally drives. And Miss White, so they're watching her. She goes upstairs, she comes downstairs, she's got trash bags. She opens up the doors of the car, she opens up the trunk, she starts dumping stuff in there. Miss LaSage goes back in, Mr. White is watching her, thinking she's just emptying stuff, until she goes to this nasty, stinky dumpster. And doesn't, as he said, throw it over it, add it, under it, beside it, anything like that. This funky truck dumpster, she places it in there. And that's when he was like, huh, okay. Tells us, make you go get that bag. Takes it to the office. It's not closed. Call the police. Sergeant Silver arrives. Explain what they saw, and then he decides he's going to go around and see what else is. So decides to go around to see what else he can find. And in a dumpster, ways away, he finds the hat. That hat sitting right there. He finds this hat. And he says, what stuck out to him is, this did not appear to be a hat that should have been thrown away. Just sitting in there, thrown away. An old, ratty, dirty, nothing. See the stickers at the top? The letters. That was on there. So, that was after he is informed that the police are looking for him. Then the hat gets dumped. That hat that's in the Davis file is our submission about that. Then there's a call between Juan and his wife. And the defense says, well, she put him out and he was telling her to throw her clothes away. But listen to how that whole thing goes. So that starts with what's up above. And then when she's talking about the rag-ass clothes, you feel me? I wasn't shady as all get out. And they started talking about a phone call that they had the day before. Talking about getting rid of stuff. He got rid of the hat that he's seen wearing in the David Scott video. And they're trying to cover it by saying rag-ass clothes. But it took him a minute because he wasn't sure what what the code word was. That was a wink and a nod as to what she's calling. Next piece, the DNA. And the defense talked about this was a rush and the process was expedited. Corners weren't cut. She still did the same analysis and the same way that she would. She just bumped it to the front of the line given the seriousness of the situation. So there were lots of items that were sent to the lab for testing. This hat that we talked about, the band of the hat was swabbed. She threw in the trash. His DNA, it's on there. Swabs from Jonathan's right hip pocket had him and Megan's DNA, expected. Swabs from his left hip pocket, back right pocket, left hand fingernails, matched him at all locations, doesn't match Megan. Swabs from his back left pocket matches him at all but 2 locations, and on 2 of them it's inconclusive, it doesn't match Megan. Swabs from the car, no DNA found, not even Rayetta's in her own car. Cutting from his left hip of the blue jeans, cutting from the front of his blue jeans near the zipper. Swabs from his t-shirt, matches him, doesn't match Megan. There's also an additional DNA present on the cutting from the left hip blue jean pocket, but it's too limited for interpretation. Swab from his wedding ring was a mixture with a partial profile. She was included in the mixture, but because of how limited it was, they couldn't get anything else out of it. So they couldn't even get Jonathan's own DNA off his own wedding ring. So then they're making a big deal about the fact that these 2 excluded from the swabs on his pockets, the left pocket, his right pocket, the jeans near his zipper, the t-shirt, and everything else. On his left hand fingernail swabs, it's only him. So yeah, they're excluded. Well, heck, his own wife is excluded too. It's him on his left hand. On his right hand fingernail swab, there is foreign DNA, but it's too limited for inclusionary purposes. Megan is excluded, they are excluded. So it's too limited to include anybody, but they could exclude people. Now, first of all, I'm not sure if you've seen a picture of his hands. That was his fingernails from autopsy. For short. So to get DNA on there, you're going to have, if you're punching, they're not having any contact. These scratches, and nobody rubs them off, maybe. But it just depends on what the contact is. And it's DNA. It's kind of like particles. They can be picked up. They can be wiped away, like particles. And so, by the time they got bagged, here's what's happened with him. You've got at least 2 officers that are performing CPR on him in the parking lot. You've got ambulance staff coming to work with him at that point. He's then taken to the hospital and being treated at the hospital. Then his hands are bagged after he's passed. That's a lot of DNA profiles to get, to exclude, because he has touched or been in contact with a lot of people. So when they're making this big deal about the fact that they're excluded, and what the heck? He's touched a lot of people. They're not going to go in and swab all the ambulance, all the officers, all hospital staff, anybody that could have ever touched him. Finally, you got the gun and the casings. After the murder, forensic services is called out and they collect the casing from the parking lot. And then they collect the projectile that was fired into him and they take it to the lab for Lawrence Pilcher. And he's testified in his 17 years experience, he has tested tens of thousands of guns, and the marking on the casing was unique to him. So he consulted other experts in the field and was told to look for a Springfield XDS. He reported that the spent casing was a Winchester .45 auto, and the markings found were similar to Springfield's XDS line of firearms. And then he talked about the projectile that was recovered from Jonathan. And remember when he talked about that, there's the bullet and then there's the casing, and you fire a shot, the bullet goes out, the casing gets ejected, wherever side of a particular bullet, so it holds that. So the casing that got ejected, that's what he compared. He also compared the projectile that held that casing that was shot through that bullet, or shot through that gun. He then relayed that information to Detective Wolf. And so I'm not sure what the big deal is about the time frame. Detectives thought June. Mr. Pilcher said July. I'm not sure why the defense is making a big deal about that. Then in July, the detectives went not only to do the lineups, but then collect shell casing from Shane Hansford. He suspected, but he had no clue what it was about, because at that point, not only had they not been arrested for the robbery and falling in, they also had not been arrested for the robbery and murder at Austin City. So yeah, we all have our suspicions, but that doesn't mean anything. So then Lawrence compared the casings that were fired from Shane's gun, determined that they were fired from the same firearm as the casing in the parking lot. That was his initial analysis, because he didn't have a gun. Then in September, ATF recovered the Springfield from the undercover buy that Fry was selling for somebody else and was going to sell it to the CI. So then that gun was collected and sent to the lab for testing. And he determined that the casing from Austin City was fired from the Springfield XDS. The projectile that held that casing could not be eliminated or identified as having been fired from Springfield. So don't be confused by that. In talking about it, he was able to identify that it was Winchester and identify that it was a .45. But because of the damage that happens when it enters his body, they didn't have the sufficient unique markings for him to be able to exclude or eliminate. But I don't want you to get trapped and confused on that. But logic will tell you that that was the projectile that was discharged from that remaining casing that they found out there. And so the Springfield XDS was the gun that was used to shoot and kill Jonathan Price. So the defense came up here and wants you to disregard Mr. Pilcher's testimony, because you've got this group of individuals, talks about the FBI, and the FBI said it was not junk science, whatever. Well, the reason you know that's not true is because he still has a job, and he's still allowed to testify in court, and ballistics, firearms, and tool marks examinations have not been eliminated. So she can come up and she can say whatever she wants, and she can talk about the studies and talk about this whatever, and they criticize this, everybody's a critic. And as Mr. Pilcher said, you got doctors trying to criticize mechanics. Everybody's a critic. Everybody wants to come in and talk about whatever. But until that has been eliminated, he's still an expert in that field. Then she said that the first time he ever saw it, fine. The first time he examined all kinds of stuff was the first time he saw it. The very first time he examined a 380, the very first time he examined a 45, the very first time he examined whatever, the very first time he examined a Glock versus a Smith & Wesson. The process is still the same. So there's going to be first, but the process is still the same. Tens of thousands of guns, tens of thousands of shell cases. He's going to look at the manufacturer. Well, it's subjective. Okay, well, we don't know anything about ballistics, so who do you call to come in and explain that it was a match? Or that it was fired from the same gun? You call a ballistics and firearms examiner. So yes, it's subjective because it is based on his training experience. Doctors are subjective. Lawyers are subjective. Several sciences are subjective. Dr. Nietzsche's is subjective. Several are subjective. That's why you look at what their training is, what their experience is, and what they're doing in the field. And you don't leave that to common sense. That was too important a situation. You do not leave that to common sense. You leave that to the expert. So then the defense is talking about why they've kind of thrown these pictures up of these black men in Woodhill with dreads and said, why don't you go get a buckle swab and go eliminate them? Well, as the detective said, well, first of all, I need probable cause. And being a black, this is me. Being a black man in Woodhill with dreads is not probable cause. The detectives cannot roll up on every black man in Woodhill with dreads and go snatch a buckle swab out of the mouth if you have nothing else except for them being in Woodhill, being a black man with dreads. I know that is not what they are suggesting. You have to have probable cause to get a buckle swab, meaning you have to get information to attach them to something so that you can go to a judge to say, Please allow me to do this. Black man standing in Thornton's is not probable cause. Antonio Fry being at the food landmark at 9:55, give or take, is not probable cause. And yes, Detective Wolf did look at that, and he said there was nothing in his phone, and said there was nothing that gave him any indication that these two were together at 1:29. Then they talked about Antonio Fry, and they have made a big deal about the fact that he was in possession of this firearm that was used to shoot these projectiles. And then they put up him, and I'm not really sure who he's supposed to be matching. So his skin color is closer to Quincencio Canada, but they don't have dreads. So his skin color is nothing like Mr. Malazan, but his hairstyle is. And he is bigger than both of them. And I even asked Detective Wolf, is Mr. Malazan about the same as he was 4 years ago? No, he's gotten quite bigger. So I'm not sure who that's supposed to match. So yeah, he's in possession, but he's also a drug trafficker. I mean, a gun trafficker, as Doug Robinson told you. They were doing all kinds of CI buys with him, buying and selling guns left and right. So the fact that this is one of them that he happens to have on September the 2nd, from this, the detective from 16 years said, yeah, all I have is him in possession of a firearm. A couple months later, he didn't even believe that linked him to it necessarily. That wasn't sufficient probable cause. Detectives make probable cause determinations every day, because they have to arrest people based on probable cause. So, the defense would be having a field day. They arrested Antonio Fry, and all you had was the fact that he was in possession of his weapon. Y'all see what he get cold where you came back and they're not guilty. He did not have sufficient information for that. So while they're saying he didn't do this and he didn't do this, the law says he can. So the final thing they talk about is the detectives focused on a particular thing and they rushed to judgment. They were under pressure from all this high-profile homicide, and they were rushed to charge. And that rush was a whole year later. And their explanation is he didn't have enough, he didn't have enough, he didn't have enough. Detective Wolf's explanation was, I wanted to have as much as I could to make sure that I had a full and complete investigation. So he got videos from, every house, every business in that area, dispatch people, go pull video. Sent the information off for DNA, sent the information off for ballistics. He did attempt to talk to Mr. Fry. He did. He was coordinated with the U.S. Attorney's Office, he was coordinated with Commonwealth Attorney's Office, he was coordinated with ATF, through Mr. Fry's attorney. I want to talk with him. And he said, nope, I'm good, and wouldn't talk to him. There's only so much he can do, he can't force him to talk to him. So he didn't refuse, he just couldn't. Sure, he got everything, so no, he did not immediately go charge right after the quality and people picked him out of the lineup. No, he did not immediately go after and charge after the DNA evidence was completed. No, he did not immediately go after and charge after he got the information from Mr. Pilcher. He did not go out and immediately charge, even after these two defendants denied knowing each other when they went to go talk to him. He didn't even charge right after Shalana went and threw away the hat that was in Austin City. He didn't go out and charge even after talking to Antoine Woods, because he wanted to make sure that he had as much as he could. If he really didn't care about the tips, he wouldn't have kept them, he would have trashed them. And they brought in Mr. Woolwinger. Now, Detective Wolf talked about multiple tips they got. He didn't bring any of that in. He didn't bring those people in. So what they wanted was to bring in Mr. Woolwinger, to make it look like he's got some sort of valuable something, because he's former U.S. attorney, he's in the lawyer. He looked like he's got some sort of status. Mr. Woolwinger isn't the one with the information. It was that chick that walked in off the street is the one with the information. So don't get sidetracked by who the witness was that was telling you that. He was relaying what this woman on the street said. And the detective looked at that, read that, and counted the same as with other tips. When I get some additional information to corroborate, I will follow up on that. And he did, because they were making such a big deal about that. He was like, but let me go figure out what they're talking about. Confirm what he said. Yeah, that's nothing. I got nothing. So, here's your puzzle. Here's your big picture. In the robbery of Quality Men, where a Springfield XDS, 2 years on the market, was stolen. The description given was of two male blacks, each with guns, one with a hat with lettering on it, one with dreads, who called each other uncle and nephew. Quincinio Canada and Juan Malazzo were picked out of a photo lineup. Canada's phone is hitting off the tower at Newtown Pike and New Circle Road, less than a mile from the hotel at 3:08, 11 minutes before the 911 call from Shane and Jessica. 6 days later, Megan and Jonathan Price were approached, robbed, and shot in the Austin City parking lot. The description was of one man with dreads with a white shirt, dark pants, medium to dark complexion, but lighter than the other man, who was very dark and wearing a mask with shorter hair. Canada is seen on the video at about 9:55 in what would be Rayetta's car. Malazzo is seen in a video at 1:17, 12 minutes before Megan's 911 call. The passenger is seen lighting what appears to be a cigarette, wearing a white shirt. And here you go. White shirt, dark pants, and what's in his hand? A cigarette. And there he is, red out. Shorter than what he's got today, and not pulled back. That's what he looked like back then. Two men seen on the video approaching the victims. One's got a black shirt with white on the front. We'll see that shortly. One with a white shirt, dark pants. Megan and Jonathan are shocked. Malazzo walks away. Cannon runs up to catch him, and after taking Jonathan's wallet, they're not in a hurry because the car is on the side, out of view. They jump in the car, drive off. K9 looks, tracking the scent around the back of the building, past the footpath, cut-throughs, and up the driveway towards Codale. Antoine Woods sees Canada in the passenger seat of the car, driven by a man he doesn't like, that he sees with Canada all the time. And Canada says he just saw somebody up with him. Canada's cell phone is hitting off the tower at Richmond Road and New Circle 13 minutes later. The casing in the Austin City parking lot and the casing from Shane were fired from the same rare 2-year-old Springfield XDS gun, Shane's gun, serial number XS696718. That is the picture of DeJuan Malazzo and Quincinio Canada guilty of the murder. Now, I do want to just quickly go through the jury instructions with you. I know they said not guilty. However, based on the facts and circumstances of this case, I really do think the Commonwealth has proven to be beyond a reasonable doubt that these two are guilty of all charges. So I do want to go over the instructions with you. And I know they're a beast. And the wording for Mr. Canada and Mr. Malazzo, their jury instructions are very similar. I'll have to tamper in a second. But the wording is very, very similar. I apologize for you turn it right back off. You didn't trigger me when you turned it off. Okay. So this is the videos that were played by Lieutenant Richardson. And at 1:14, there appears to be Rayetta's car, driving straight through and back through the Austin City parking lot. At 1:17, you see it come back through and loop around. So the video that the defense showed earlier from Marion Standa, very well, couldn't have been them. But they're not going out that direction. They have come and moved back around. Or it's not their car, because that is definitely Rayetta's car at 1:17. Now you see the cigarette light flip, and you see the white shirt. Flash off to the right, where it's picked up later on there on Deanna's camera. And you see that car pull up. You You see the white shirt, the black shirt with the white emblem in the front. Right there. Look. Hat, wedding ring. And at some point, you'll see a little glimmer of the white shirt. And then there's Leanna's car. Same one, same time. There you see it picked up, going right around, passing Jonathan and Megan sitting on the back of the car. And goes other side. Then about 9 minutes later, there you see 2 individuals walking up. White shirt, dark pants. When you're closer to it or looking at it on the computer, you may be able to look at that. Then you will definitely see black shirt, white emblem, black pants. Walking exactly as Megan says, one goes towards him, one comes around. And then when you see some movement up there, what you see appears to be white shirt going up against the truck. There. Individuals fall, shot. Then another shot, and then another thing falling. And then in that same area where the second fall occurred, you will see Megan's cell phone. And as you're seeing, walking off up at the top, Blossom, and then you will see running to catch up is a man in a white shirt with Cynthia Cannon. Now, the reason I said Blossom walking off is because you don't have to cover a long distance if you're running. If you're in a car, you don't have to cover a long distance. If you're on foot, you're going to run and not casually stroll off. But the car was parked down there. So then they pulled off, went on up the street, and went to go see Twan Woods. So the instructions I have where I'll kind of go through to show what the Commonwealth has met its burden, what I have is Procedural Canada's instructions, but the wording of them is very similar. So let me go through just a couple. I'm on page 4, instruction number 1, your definitions. Complicity language really kind of sounds exactly the way what it is. You can be complicit as to the act or complicit as to the result. You can conspire together in the act or the result. You can both intend the act, or if one conspirator acts and the other, based on his wanton or reckless behavior, can be complicit in that result. So that's what that means in terms of you can both intend to do so, or if one acts and the other, based on his actions, if they're wanton or reckless, can be complicit, or basically can co-sign off on what the co-conspirator did, is what that means. So if you're aware that a person's action or result could occur and you disregard that and go along anyway, you're complicit in the result. Deadly weapon, exactly as it sounds, it's any weapon from which a shot readily capable of producing death or other serious physical injury may be discharged, including any weapon that is unloaded or incapable of discharging. So while we are aware that in Austin City, we know that's a functioning firearm, in the Quality Inn robbery one, the guns were described, they were pointed to them, so it's not an argument to say it was unloaded or not functioning or whatever. They use it exactly as they intended to use it in terms of a deadly weapon. So then I'm flipping forward to page 7. And we've gone through and we've shown that video to you. You will have the opportunity to replay that as many times as you so choose. But what I do want to go through, there's intentional, and then it talks about complicity, and it talks about principal accomplice. So I'm going to talk to you about how I've met the particular elements of intentional murder in general, and then talk about principal accomplice. So one, we have to show you that in Fayette County on or about June 21st, 2014, and before the finding in the indictment herein, the indictment was returned, as the detective told you, June of 2015, that the defendant killed Jonathan Price by shooting him with a gun. So again, this one's Canada's, Ballistics will say the exact same thing. But the defendant killed Jonathan Price by shooting him with a gun. And then in so doing, he intentionally caused the death of Jonathan Price. We talked earlier about intent being formed in an instant. And so when they walked up to them, both had weapons. I don't know if when they first walked up, their intent was to kill him. I'm guessing maybe not. But when Marine Jonathan comes to the aid of his wife, who's been accosted by Mr. Canada, and he approaches him, I suspect that Jonathan is the one that pushed Canada up against that truck. And then Jonathan falls and hits the ground. And then he shot him back. So the intent to kill him formed right then, in that instant. So he intentionally caused the death of Jonathan Price when he had that gun and fired it and shot him in the back. Complicity says, same thing, before the finding of the indictment herein, Dewan Malazim killed Jonathan Price by shooting him with a gun, and that prior to the killing, the defendant acted in complicity, as that term is defined in instruction number 1, with Dewan Malazim to kill Jonathan Price. And that's why I went through and explained what complicity meant and talked about that, because the fact that they both went, both had guns, both approached, it's clear what their objective was, and it's clear what they intended to do. It's also clear that when I said co-sign off on one of them, because when Jonathan is shot, they just leave it at that. And then turn and shot Megan. So it wasn't a situation where one is shot and it's like, oh my gosh, what to do, I'm out. No, shot Megan. And it looked like from that video that the shots are coming from 2 different locations. So it looks like one is shot here and shooting Jonathan, and the other one is over there shooting Megan. Is what it looks like when you're looking at that video. But if it's hard to tell, that's where page 9, the principal or complicitor instruction comes in. So, if you would believe that they're guilty of intentional murder on instruction number 2, or complicity to intentional murder on instruction number 3, but you can't tell from the evidence whether the defendant, Canada, is the principal shooter or is the complicitor who may have shot the other person, shot Megan, then you can find him guilty of murder, principal, or complicitor. And that's what this one is for. So as I said, when you go and you look at that video and you're trying to figure out where people are placed and things like that, look at that. It's clear shot him and shot him in the back. We'll show those photos in just a second. But if you can't determine, then you will find him guilty of principal or complicitor under this instruction. Wanton murder, and I just want to explain the difference about that. Defendant, Part A, the defendant killed Jonathan Price by shooting him with a gun, and that B, in so doing, he was wantonly engaging in conduct which created grave risk of death to Jonathan Price and thereby caused the death of Jonathan Price. That, to me, is a situation if Jonathan and one of those defendants was actively engaged. 2 defendants show up with a weapon intending to commit a robbery. And that Jonathan is actively engaged and in an actual engaged in situation, shots are fired. I could see that being maybe a wanton situation. But when you shoot the man in the back while he's laying on the ground, you're not wanton. You're not in the midst. You have shot the man in the back while he's laying on the ground. That's intent, and that's just cold. So, I don't believe that wanton murder applies, given the facts and circumstances of the case. So, this is what I was talking about with respect to those photos. And Dr. Frame talked about the abrasions and contusions and various things like that that are on Jonathan. So you can see his elbow, the scratch on his elbow. You can see his knee, and he's got a scratch or a cut there on his knee. On his chin, he's got a cut there on his chin. All of those things are consistent, as she said, with falling. So on the video, as I said, you can see something go down where he's falling and he's hit. And then he's been shot in the back. Here, it goes downward and lands in the front of him. Then, complicity to first degree robbery. And I'm just going to kind of envelope all of them. These are the following in people, their next couple of instructions. I'll kind of envelope them all together. Starting on page 14. That in Fayette County on or about June 15th, before the finding and the indictment herein, we told you that that indictment occurred for the robbery charges in September of 2014. Juan Malazzo stole property from Daryl Hansford, and then in the court, I'm sorry, I was looking at the complicity part. It says, so let me back up the page. That on June the 15th, before the finding and indictment herein, Canada stole property from Daryl Hansford, that's Shane. That in the course of so doing, with the intent to accomplish the theft, he used or threatened immediate use of physical force upon Daryl Hansford. And then when he did so, he was armed with a gun, and that gun was a deadly weapon. That's why I explained what deadly weapon was and talked about it. He had that gun. You've heard them talk about the property that was stolen, their wallets, the money, the cell phone, the gun, the money from the store, which is in the 911 call. They went through Mitch's pockets, they took the gun from him, they made him lay down. The threat of physical force, they put the gun to his chest when they first encountered him outside. They forced him in the room, they put the gun to his head, give me what you got. When Jessica screamed, they told her to shut up or they were going to kill her. Told them to get down on the bed, told them to keep their head down. They had to keep telling them we're dads, they had young children at home so that they wouldn't shoot them. It was very clear from their statements and their actions towards Shane, Mitch, and Jessica that they were using and threatening the use of physical force upon them, and they were armed with handguns, deadly weapons. And so the Commonwealth believes, based on the facts that are presented, that we have met the burden for first-degree robbery. Complicity is what I was talking about, they're in it together. So you heard me talk about the fact that the one with the hat, Juan Malazzo, seemed to be the one in charge. He was standing at the door, directing, or as Canada was going through all the drawers and everything like that, directing it, and then when they finished, he said, come on, nephew. But he seemed to be the one that was in charge, but clearly they were in it together. Clearly they were in it together. And so, that was what your complicity instruction is for, to show that they're in it together. And I said that applies to all of them. Then on page 22, first-degree robbery. With respect to Jonathan Price, there is a robbery and a complicity and a principal or accomplice, or a principal complicitors instruction. And that also would apply in this particular case with respect to Austin City. They were in it together. They both had a role. They were both doing various things. Megan told you that after Jonathan was shot, the one with the dreads, white shirt, that's from Cindy in Canada, reached down, took Jonathan's wallet from his back pocket, took her purse off of her, and then took off. One of the things she reckoned or realized was that what stuck out was the fact that Malazzo was walking away. Jonathan and one of them was fighting. Jonathan was shot with a Springfield XDS handgun, and it was a functioning handgun. So, the Commonwealth believes it has met the elements for first-degree robbery with respect to both Jonathan Price and Megan Price. If you are unsure with respect to who was a principal and who was an accomplice, You can also find him guilty of robbery in the first degree under instruction number 19, principal or complicity. That would imply instruction number 20, first degree robbery for Megan as well. Second degree assault also applies to both defendants. That is on page 28. That in Fayette County on or about June 21st, 2014, before the final indictment herein, he intentionally caused a physical injury to Megan Price by shooting her with a gun, and that the gun was a deadly weapon under instruction number 1. She came and she talked to you about the injury she received. When she was shot in the leg, it shattered the bone in her leg. She's had the definition of physical injury being substantial physical pain or impairment of any physical condition. She said that she had surgery right after that. She had a plate put in her leg. She was discharged a couple of days later. She was non-weight bearing for weeks. She was in a wheelchair for about 7 weeks, and then she was on crutches for about 12 weeks. She had a plate in her leg, and it's still giving her issues, still giving her leg pain, and it's getting beyond painful enough that she's going to need to endure another surgery to have that removed. But it's going to also then cause her to be non-weight bearing, being in a wheelchair and crutches, and that's why she hasn't done it as of yet. So based on what she told you, there is no question that she has received a physical injury caused by the fired shot from one of these two defendants. If, based on the video, it is hard to determine which, then it would be principal or complicit under instruction number 25. Now, as I said, I'm new to you, consider candidates. Dewan Malazams read the same. I'll talk about your family in just a second. But his instructions read the same. And so they would be guilty of the murder under the complicit instruction. They would be guilty of the robberies under the complicit instruction. So it's not a situation where you figure out which one did what, one's guilty and one's not guilty. They were in it together. They're both guilty of all of those charges. Then with respect to Mr. Malazam's additional charge of tampering, that would also fall on page 33. Instruction number 27. And I've just pulled up the complicity to tampering with physical evidence. Then, I think I have an old one. Hopefully yours does say July. In Fayette County, on or about July 25th, and before the finding and indictment herein, Shalana Malazam removed evidence which she believed was about to be produced or used in this proceeding. One clothes was a New York Yankees hat he was wearing. In the video, Danny Scott, you can hear their conversation. Vincent said, well, he was out with somebody else, so she put him out, and, you know, okay. She started with, hey, love. They talked. What the confusion was is the wink, wink, nod, nod about what you calling what you threw out of my car for me. And she talks about it and acknowledges there was a phone call. And she talks about the fact of, you told me to get rid of stuff. You didn't tell me what to get rid of. Wink, wink, nod, nod. It was your raggedy ass clothes. The day after the police were looking for him, they had a conversation, and he told her to get rid of the stuff. She threw away the hat, and she's trying to call ragged clothes, but that ain't what that was. So, she removed evidence which she believed was about to be produced or used in this proceeding. She did so with the intent to impair its availability in the proceeding, that the evidence was physical evidence as defined under instruction number 1, that the proceeding was an official proceeding as defined under instruction number 1, physical evidence being the hat to be in the video, official proceeding being in this trial. Then prior to tampering, the defendant acted in complicity, as that term was defined in instruction number 1, with Shalana Malazam to remove the evidence. You heard it from their own words. That's what they did. So, I'm now finished. I can't say another thing to you once you go back to deliberate. In opening, defense talked about this bridge. We're on this side of the bridge, and Commonwealth has the burden to cross over that side of the bridge. You have evidence that will be taken back with you. You have the ability to re-listen to testimony if your notes don't cover it. I ask you not to be caught in the weeds. I ask you not to listen to what they're saying if there was no evidence to support it. I ask you to listen to the witnesses who took the stand. And I ask you to put all the pieces together. Don't just look at them independently. Look at how they fit together. Everybody, how they fit together and how it makes sense. The witnesses, videos, cell phones, DNA, how it fits together to make a complete picture. And that picture shows that these two defendants are guilty of the robbery of Shane Hansford, Jessica Rutherford, and Mitchell Smith. And what that evidence shows is that these two defendants are guilty of the murder of Jonathan Price, now the robbery of Megan Price, now the assault of Megan Price, now the robbery of Jonathan Price. And then Mr. Malazzo is guilty of tampering with physical evidence. Commonwealth gladly met its burden, took on the burden of proving you all those were down. We've met our burden, and I have to be fine. They're guilty of all charges.